British politics was thrown into utter turmoil. In a stunning, unexpected twist, the Reform UK Party, long dismissed by critics as a fringe movement, achieved what no one thought possible, a historic electoral shock that sent tremors through Westminster. And at the heart of this seismic event stands one man, Nigel Farage, the political firestarter who's never been one to shy away from controversy. But what happened just a minute ago has left the nation in absolute disbelief. King Charles III, normally reserved, dignified, and cautious in public commentary, appears to have directly intervened, shutting down Farage in a moment that's already being etched into modern British political history. The Reform Party, campaigning on a platform of radical change, strict immigration control, and populist rhetoric, surged to unexpected success in the general election. Pollsters were stunned, rival politicians blindsided, and the public caught somewhere between admiration and anxiety. But it wasn't just the number of seats they won. It was the momentum. The message. The unmistakable wave of frustration from millions of voters who felt unheard for too long. And at the center of it all was Nigel Farage, returning to frontline politics like a phoenix, armed with fiery speeches, biting criticisms of the establishment, and his signature brand of anti-elite charm. For years, Farage had been written off by critics as a political provocateur, someone who could influence opinion but not win power. But this time, it was different. Reform's message resonated deeply, particularly among working-class voters disillusioned with both Labour and Conservatives. And as results poured in overnight, the impossible became reality. Reform UK carved out major wins in traditionally strong Labour and Tory areas. Farage declared it a new political revolution, promising to drain the Westminster swamp and give power back to the people. But then, as news anchors scrambled to make sense of the new political map and analysts struggled to contextualize the data, something extraordinary happened. The palace released an unprecedented statement. It was brief, but its implications were staggering. King Charles III, in what insiders are calling a deliberate and calculated move, issued a strongly worded expression of concern, without naming names, but the target was unmistakable. The language, although royal in tone, carried the weight of a warning. Populism, division, and threats to democratic integrity had no place in British public life. Within minutes, reporters connected the dots. This wasn't just a general appeal for unity. It was a response to Farage's post-victory speech, in which he accused the deep state and monarchy-adjacent institutions of conspiring against reform. He even hinted, in a moment now widely condemned, that certain people in gilded palaces fear true democracy. That, insiders now say, was the final straw. The king, historically tight-lipped on political issues, decided it was time to act. According to sources close to Buckingham Palace, His Majesty was deeply disturbed by the tone and content of Farage's remarks, interpreting them as a veiled attack on the constitutional monarchy itself. For a constitutional monarch to respond, even indirectly, to an active political figure is extremely rare. But this wasn't politics as usual. The king, still fresh in his reign, has been trying to balance tradition with modern values. And when Farage crossed a line, suggesting that the monarchy was somehow part of an establishment conspiracy, the king had no choice but to step forward, albeit in his own subtle but firm way. Back on the political battlefield, the reaction was instantaneous. Critics of Farage accused him of provoking a dangerous confrontation with the crown, while his supporters doubled down, claiming the monarchy was out of touch and afraid of change. Social media exploded, hashtags like #KingVs and #monarchy strikes back trending globally within minutes. Protests erupted in London, some in support of the king, others rallying behind Farage, who appeared live on GB News to label the royal statement a betrayal of neutrality. Political leaders were swift to weigh in. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, visibly shaken, called for calm and reminded the public that the crown must remain above politics. Labour's Keir Starmer urged Farage to retract his comments and restore respect for our constitutional institutions. The Archbishop of Canterbury also chimed in, warning of the moral consequences of political rhetoric that pits citizen against citizen, and the people against their institutions. But Farage, ever the defiant figure, refused to back down. He doubled down on his claims, saying reform would expose every corner of elite hypocrisy, and claiming that the royal family was not above criticism, especially when silence implies complicity. In that moment, a cultural line had been crossed. What was once unthinkable in British politics had become front-page reality. A direct standoff, symbolic or not, between the Crown and the most disruptive political figure of a generation. Behind closed doors, palace officials are said to be scrambling to contain the fallout. King Charles reportedly called a private emergency meeting with top advisors, expressing concern that Farage's words might fuel anti-monarchy sentiment among younger and more radicalized voters. Some advisors have even suggested a rare televised address may be necessary, something not done outside of national emergencies or royal deaths. What's clear now is that this isn't just a political moment. It's a cultural and constitutional crossroads. Britain is facing a real-time reckoning with its identity. Reform's surge has brought long-simmering tensions to the surface, between the establishment and the electorate, between tradition and disruption, and now, even between Crown and Commons. And the one-minute intervention from the King. It may be remembered not as overreach, but as a defining stance to protect an institution that has long served as the bedrock of British stability. As the dust begins to settle, the questions multiply. Can Farage turn this electoral win into real policy influence, or will the backlash limit his reach? Will the monarchy survive this encounter with its loudest critic unscathed? Is Britain heading toward deeper division, or has this flashpoint opened the door for necessary conversations about representation, power, and the future of its institutions? No one knows for sure. But one thing is certain. A single minute, a single statement, has changed everything. A king spoke. A politician responded. And history turned another unpredictable page.